Hello, welcome back to Half Men Talk. I'm Shane Mitchell, and this is Walk with Shane. Okay, how you all doing? I want to start off. Just want to do some updates on the week, and then I've got a few topics I want to talk about. So, first of all, just a little update for those who've been asking about my dad. So he's had his appointment with the surgeon, and they're going to operate. He's on a waiting list, be about 3 months. Not ideal for him, but at least we got, a line of recovery. We know exactly. Well, not exactly. Obviously, it's 3 months, but we know when it's going to be. So he's just got to manage that pain until then. They have told him, once this operation's complete, he should make a full recovery. He should have all his feeling back, and pain will be gone. So that's good. Not really much else to talk about with that regarding that. Just that he's got an operation coming. They'll operate. He should make a full recovery, and he can, get back to normal. So yeah, that's good. Okay. What else was there to talk about this week? It's a bit of a tough one, really, because nothing really much has been going on, I'm afraid. Yeah, all right, I'll start with that then. So this week I've met up with a couple of friends and had a good sit down with one of them and talked about the issue regarding the cutting people off and how that made him feel. I know it upset him, and I told him it wasn't personal, and I'm hoping we can move forward now. He is an old friend of mine, and if anything, it brings people closer together once you understand where people stand, so that was good. Friend of mine come back from his travels. Sorry, I might be like you see, I'm walking. See how muddy it is today. Come back from his travels. So caught up with him over a coffee, and it was that was a good conversation, because he's going through it at the moment, and I won't say any names, but he's really struggling with certain things, and it is some of the points he raises are so poignant, so important regarding parental alienation, call it. And we're going to get in the studio down the line and talk about it. And it got me thinking, sort of, when I left, especially with courts, how they do tend to lean towards the women, the mothers, in relationships, and when there's kids involved and court cases accessed. And I suppose it really brings up a lot of other important questions regarding children and having access to both parents. Oh, for God's sake, man. No, as you probably know, I'm about to go into the cow field, and these buggers literally stood right in the way. I don't know if you can see. Can you see him? He stood in my path. Now look, they wouldn't, surely they'd have a sign, wouldn't they, to say like, oh, don't go this way, cows are dangerous. Or, because I don't want him charging me. So risk it. Just risk it. I'll just have to run, won't I? I'm hoping he's alright. I'll give him the like scare. Oh God, it's making me nervous. Yeah, so I think one of the things I was talking about was about parents and children having access to both parents. In theory, what they should do for kids is what's important for kids, not necessarily what's important for the parents, right? Now, as you know, do you know what? I'm thinking about, fuck me, this thing is massive. Jesus. Just keep walking, Shane. It's a cow, for God's sake. They're following me. I'm sorry. I was talking about something serious, and these cows got in my head. Let me start again. Okay. So I suppose what I was trying to say is I was rambling a bit then. Talking about children growing up without both parents in their lives. Now, unfortunately, it seems to be today's world, divorce rates are high. Kids don't, that happy family seems to be on the wane. Now, I'm very fortunate, at the moment. Me and my missus are pretty strong. We got three daughters. We're raising them in a loving home. Now, unfortunately, relationships do break up. They do finish. So where does that leave the children? And at what age does it affect them? Now, I know that might sound like a bit of a silly sort of question. Of course, it's going to affect them at all ages, but I mean as in mental personal growth. So when they're teenagers, let's say, mum and dad split up and the child's 15, 16, they're not stupid. You don't just wake up and go, oh, we're done. It normally tends to be a few years in the making. So they see, and kids aren't stupid, resilient, but they're not stupid. So they will almost come to terms with it. They're physically not fully developed, obviously, but they're developing a bit of puberty. They're growing into adulthood. Now, let's say children under a certain age, let's say children under 5. Now, you get certain traits and you learn certain things from different parents. Now, we'll say historically, obviously I don't want to ruffle no feathers here, but historically we would say, the man would teach that child sort of masculine traits, and the woman would treat the child with feminine traits, love, empathy, whereas the man would logical, stern, etc., etc. I don't want to get into that, but don't get me wrong, there are some amazing single parents out there, raising their children the right way. But that, I think that's the exception. It's never the norm. Like, as a woman, how do you, let's say a woman raising boys, yes, they teach them empathy and respect and love. But in today's world, it's a hard world, isn't it? It's a hard world, as we know. So they've got to then be taught how to be strong, and and I think, I don't know, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like, you tell me what you think. I think it's a tough one personally, and I know you can't judge it by everyone. You have to do it individually. But yeah, tough one. Don't get me wrong. Let me elaborate on that a little bit more then. So like, I come, my mum and dad split up when I was young, and my mum, obviously I saw my dad every other weekend or at weekends. So my mum raised 4 children, but I would say, well, me, maybe my older sister, there's 4 of us. They obviously had more mum and dad together than I did, and I don't know, it's that abandonment, and you feel like you've been abandoned. Unfortunately, that's the price a child pays for the mum and dad not getting on. And yeah, I know nowadays it's a lot easier, especially with access, phones, iPads, you can FaceTime, or you can just call them up. Obviously back then you couldn't. You had to get on your iPhone, was very rare. Like, you didn't really see the other parent until it was their time for access. So that's another thing. I think I'm on that generation of, not being able to do it. Obviously, over the years, technology has made people, brought people closer together. So it does has its downsides, doesn't it? As we've talked about in the past. But yeah. All right, but I'm rambling a little bit on it. It's just someone just made me think is about the importance. I suppose what I'm trying to say is the importance of having two parents in a child's life. And that's what's got to be the most important, right? Because there's a lot of parents who use their children as weapons just to get back at their ex. And I think you've got to be a special kind of person in the head to use your children as weapons. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about abusive parents shielding your children from abusive parents. I'm not talking about that. That's obviously understandable. But just because you and your partner are falling out, hate each other, whatever, does not give you the right to use your child as a weapon. Okay. Let's leave that there then for now. Like I said, it's a bit of a tough one, isn't it? I've even gone to a point in the past when we've talked about it, saying about, punishment for those parents who do use their children as weapons, because they get away with it. They get away with it. And it's wrong. But I don't know. I mean, the courts that deal with it, I don't know how to deal with it. They must obviously have some sort of guidelines in place how to deal with these things. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know enough about how the courts deal with it. And I think when me and my friends sit down and talk about it properly, we'll have a good old session on it. And I'm sure he'll enlighten me. So so we'll leave that there. So another thing that I've been thinking about talking about, which I've really put off because I'm not too sure how to sort of talk about it, is the reason I am talking about it now is because I mentioned it to a friend and he feels the same way. He talks about it. But at what age do you get conscious of death, right? Now, I mean you yourself dying. Like you think when you're young, you think you're invincible, don't you? You think you've got the world ahead of you. Do what you want when you want, eat what you want. But you get to a certain age and you think, but I went through it, a little bit still going through it, or where you think, what's the point? What's the point doing anything? You're going to be dead. You're going to die. What's the point? What's the point of buying that new t-shirt? Just don't add any value or life to. What's the point of going on that holiday? What's the point of building that house? Etc, etc. Right? You just think, what's the point? And I think a lot of men feel that way. They get to a certain age and they're like very conscious of death. Now, I don't mean conscious of dying. We all know we're going to die, right? But there's always that little in your head, like, you're going to live forever. You get to a point, don't you? You really think, like, I'm going to die. Everything I've built, everything I've done in life it's going to be left behind, it's going to disappear. Give it another 100 years and you'll be forgotten. Just a footnote in history. You're not even that important. And I'm interested to get people's opinion on that and see at what age. I think for me, probably the last 5 years. And what happened in the last 5 years? A little thing called COVID. It really drove it home for a lot of people, just how fallible we are. Like, we're just weak. People, I think as well, do you know another thing as well? I know this might sound really funny. You'll probably laugh at this one, but you think your skin's like made of steel, doesn't it? You know, you like nothing can hurt you, and this, you know, paper can cut you. That's how weak we are. Paper can cut you. Yeah, I've definitely been more conscious of it since then, and it's a horrible feeling, you know, when you have that just sinking feeling. You think, oh, I'm gonna die one day. I'm gonna be dead. There's nothing I can do about it. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why I never felt any joy in anything. Because I always, what's the point? What's the point? It's irrelevant. Everything's irrelevant. But then I read something as well, because I'm a nerd and I like to read. And it was like, I'll give you the short tale of it. It's basically, look, we're not getting out of here alive. You know, we're all going the same way. And it's about making each day as enjoyable as you can. Okay? And also, like you say, you don't leave a legacy, you know, but you just do not know the impact you have on people. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you do that might inspire someone. Same way you're inspired by people, right? So eventually, at some point, your impact will be felt down the line. And that gave me a little bit like peace. Thinking, oh yeah, do you know, just because I'm not setting the world alight and I'm not, you know, discovering the cure for cancer or, you know, something that really is going to set me apart. Something I do today or I do tomorrow or whatever could inspire the next person, and they inspire the next person, etc. And someone does something. Now, I know that might sound a bit egotistical, like, yeah, I'm going to inspire people. It's not meant for that. It just means it's that, you know, that story about ripples in water. You know, you drop a stone in the ripples, ripple effect of something you do, butterfly effect, sliding doors syndrome, all that, right? You just don't know. And I suppose that boils down to like being kind to people, because you never know what they're going through, etc. So that's my little spin on it. Yes, we're all going to die, and yes, it's lonely, but you know, we all have a part to play in this world, whether we like it or not, whether it's good or bad. You know, every great invention or discovery throughout mankind, you know, stemmed from a ripple effect of something else. So keep that in mind next time you're feeling down. You know, you are important. You matter. You might not know it, but you are. So we had Winston in the studio the other day as part of my Movember collection, and we talked about his cancer discovery when he had that, and the feelings he went through that, and the accident he had. And he's a tough old man, Winston. Like, he is emotionally strong. You know, he knows exactly what he wants, and he doesn't let outside influences get in his head. And but the story he told, I mean, many a man could have been broke with that mentally. And I tried my hardest to, you know, get it out of him. But you know, I've known Winston a long time. It's pretty evident of the mental strength he has. And I think one of these things that I've discovered with interviewing older people is the difference in mentality. We've had it with Ken when we talked with Ken, you know. And one of the things that gets highlighted quite a lot is about the access to technology. It's like back then, you know, you just went around your mate's house, you went down the pub, and that was it. Like, you didn't have all these access. And as good as technology has been, social media, you know, there are a lot of bad things about it. And I always wonder, like, what are we doing now, or what do we think is normal now, that in 50 years, you know, we look back and go, I can't believe we've done that. Like one of the biggest things to me is like smoking on planes. You know, like we used to smoke on planes and restaurants. Like now we obviously know how outrageous that was, especially smoking in planes. But I wonder what we're doing now. And in 50 years' time, we'll look back and go, I cannot believe we've done that. Now I'm thinking, you know, there's a few things I know you're going to come up with, like say like processed food, really like high sugar um, refreshments. Say no names. You know, so let's just say, for example, social media. But you know, because the children have access to social media now, you know, they're constantly being bombarded with subliminary messages about how they should be and what they should like, etc. A lot of these children, when they get into adulthood, they can't deal with anxiety, they can't deal with depression, because they think every sad thought is depression, or they feel every butterfly in their stomach is anxiety. You know, we are very quick to label these things now, and rightly so in certain things. And I'm not talking about like neurodiversity. I'm not talking about those sort of situations because they're real. And you know, I'm talking about people just, you know, being anxious because they're going to meet someone for the first time, or you know, just stuff like that. Like, you know, why can't it just be I'm nervous, like, you know, excited, or you know, that's another thing as well. When have we put the two together? So like nervousness and excitement, you know, when we're excited, it's nervous as well, but it's excitement, like, you know. But we're straight away, we're like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, because we always go to the bad, don't we? We always go to the bad. But yeah, I don't know. It's a funny one, that, isn't it? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I suppose. I mean, what am I now? 43, 50 years? Yeah, I might still be alive. Yeah. Marvel and medicine might keep me alive. Just wheel me out at Christmas. Scared of grandkids. Oh, great grandkids then. Really great. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so either way, yeah. So the Winston interview was really good. I really enjoyed it. We had a few laughs in there as well. Like I said, I've known Winston a long time, so it might come across a bit. But I've known Winston for a very long time, so it's a good friendly chat between two old friends. Yeah, so this is a sick video, I think. And I get a few people commenting and all, but I get a lot of people who message me privately after. They're like, oh, yeah, really enjoyed that, talking about that, really enjoyed that. Put it on here. But if you've got questions, put it on here, because other people can read them. And, you know, the whole point of these videos is, like we talked about earlier, it's to inspire people to think. Not inspire people to do magnificent things, but just to think. You know, talk, think, share ideas, because that's how we're going to get out of this, you know, is by communicating with each other. And I was like, for instance, so Monday I had got invited onto a live on TikTok, and with George, and one of the questions he brought, I don't think he was expecting my answer, but one of the questions he brought up was, if you had a blank checkbook, spend any money you want or however you want, how would you solve depression? I think that was what it was anyway. And I said I wouldn't spend anything, because you can't chuck money at these sort of things and go, here you go, here's £1 million, be happy. Don't work like that, right? Now, don't get me wrong, there's groups and doctors and medical, like there's all these things that cost, obviously. So like I said, look, I'd put the money towards that to make sure there's support provided. But you know, one of the biggest things is it's got to come from within. And I bang this drum, sorry, so many times. These sort of things, when you are depressed or anxious, they've got to come from within. No one is coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people don't know how to do it themselves, or they're like, I'm lost, I'm stuck. Reach out. That's doing it yourself. I don't mean become this spiritual guru. I mean reach out, get the support you need. There are so many ways to get through this now, like to get through depression, to get through anxiety, to help deal with it. It's got to stem from within. You know, just sitting at home waiting for it to pass, that it's not going to pass. I don't mean every situation, right? Okay, I'm feeling anxious, I'm just going to sit this one out for a little bit. I'm not talking about, I'm on about the recurring problem that you have. So, call a friend, go to a group, call a doctor, do whatever you've got to do, but you have to do it. And I think, and I actually raised this with someone, and he's like, what about the people who, let's say the people who take their own lives, and they didn't have the strength. Now, I get that. I do. And this is what I was talking about in a video a few months back now, about how do you reach out? How do you show support? I'm just going to do one more lap of this. How do you reach out? How do you support? And that ties into that, because how do you recognize that your friend is struggling, right? Or how do you recognize that someone is going through it? Now, silence speaks volumes, doesn't it, right? So if you know someone who's constantly active and talking and suddenly they go silent, it's weird. So it's patterns, isn't it? So we notice patterns as humans. Certain things people do, certain behaviors, we notice that. So that's a trigger for us. So, they're not themselves. They don't normally do that, or they're talking a bit out of turn. So we spot these things. But those people who have gone too far and they in their head, they cannot see any way back, right? That, for me, is worst case. That's worst case scenario. How do you pull those people back? 9 times out of 10, it's too late. 9 times out of 10, it's too late. And you always, when you go to a funeral, you always get a lot of people, oh, if only they'd reached out, if only they had done this, and I would have been there. So it irritates me a little bit when people say, oh, why didn't they just call me? Why didn't they just do that? Because most of the time they probably have, in their own little way. They probably have sent a little, a text like, oh, I fancy meeting up. There's no context to the text. In their head, it's massive. I need to meet up. But you just read it, fancy meeting up. Oh, I'm busy. Can't meet up. Now, I'm not saying that you should read every single message with, ulterior motives. But that's one of the things that constantly on my mind about reading into behaviors and changing patterns, etc. Because for what I do speak to a lot of people, as you can imagine. So I'm so worried about missing cues, missing things, and that's emotionally draining as well. It is, and that's why I always, try and communicate best I can with my friends, and that's why I'm going through it at the moment. Obviously, everyone knows that I'm going through it. I'm quite open with it. I'm feeling a lot better. Last month, and I suppose it's because of the changes I've made. We did say, time will tell. I'm feeling happier. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid enough. I'm not stupid to think this, I've completed it, mate. I know at some point something could change and I could be back down. But also part of the journey is accepting that. Ride the wave, as they say. Ride the wave of happiness. And then, yeah. Okay. As you know, I like to finish on a happy note. That one got a bit away from me there. I do babble a lot on these lives. On these what we shames. That's because it's just raw. It just comes from your heart. There's no script here. I don't learn the words before I go out. And that's part of my nature, I suppose. There's like 5 different conversations going on at once. I know some people can say, oh, that's a bit of symptoms of ADHD. Who knows? But let's finish light today. You can probably hear I'm out of breath a bit as well. I've had the lurgy. Seems to be hanging around a little bit too long. I had pneumonia a few years back. Jesus Christ, that was bad. So I've got to be careful this don't develop again. But what else had to say? I suppose that's it really. We've had a good little walk. Got my steps in. Yeah, so like I said, like and subscribe. Start putting some comments on there. Let's start getting the conversations going. Gives me something to talk about next week as well. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, whatever you're doing. I'm going to go home now and watch the football. England game's on in a bit. And yeah, I might even have an afternoon nap, who knows. Okay, well, I've been Shane Mitchell. This has been Walk with Shane. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and have a great week, and I'll catch you next week. And yeah, thanks for watching.